same thing is true at the bank. Is that, I was in Las Vegas a couple of weeks ago talking just to a Black audience, and a 75-year-old, very well-dressed, distinguished guy said, "Are you aware they just moved the Raiders from Oakland to Las Vegas and built Raider Stadium?"
These are sensitive issues, Tom. Sensitive.
I know, Alicia, I'm from the Bay Area.
We feel it.
I know you do. Yeah. And he said, but in building that stadium, only 1% of the contracts went to Black-owned companies. And he said, "What do you think about quotas?" And I said, "What do I think about quotas? I think there is a quota. There's a quota right now, 100% to the insiders." Yes. And, people always, when you start to change things, it's like, whoa, that's a quota. That's not fair. It's like, hold on for a second. What's happening right now isn't fair.
That's right.
Yeah.
So let's get into the next part of
our next question is, based on your perspective and experience, is there anything in the agenda which feels unrealistic or perhaps misses the mark that you would like to speak more about, or just share your thoughts on, and on how we can rethink our approach?
How you're thinking your approach?
Or rethink the approach. Is there anything within the agenda that you feel is unrealistic or perhaps misses the mark that you want to speak more to, or you want to share your thoughts on?
No, I actually, as you know, I've been very supportive of you guys, both individually and as an organization. I'm a gigantic, look, I believe that what you guys are doing is not just the right thing, but might be the critical thing in 2020. I believe that the Black community as a group, I wasn't just being polite about moral leadership. I believe to a large extent, the African-American community is choosing the next president. Honest to goodness, you guys. And I've been saying that for a year before I was running for president. It's like, it isn't just the numbers of people who vote. I believe that there's a moral weight to those votes that's differential. And, I always say I mean it, Nife. I always say to people when they ask me about foreign policy and they say, who do you respect? How can you possibly do this job? I say, look, first of all, the person who was right on the Iraq War was a junior state senator from Illinois who had no foreign policy experience, but was right. Mm-hmm. And all the foreign policy people in DC were wrong. But the person who was right about giving, unlimited anti-terrorist powers to George W. Bush, no senators, one congressperson. Barbara Lee.
That's right.
And I always say, you know what? It's not a fluke. Bravest person, smartest person, wisest person turned out to be this unknown congresswoman from Oakland, California, who I adore. Yeah. It's like she came through when no one else came through.
That's right.
I know it. I would say it as much as possible because I don't think Barbara gets her due.
She does not get her due, which leads us into a conversation about governance. So for us at the Black to the Future Action Fund, we believe that how one governs is equally as important as the policies that they espouse. And so please tell us about your political philosophy and how your approach to governance by and for the people is beneficial for Black communities. Okay. And if you could, in your answer, share an example of your current work to involve Black communities in the decisions that impact our lives and in the influencing and vetting of policies that impact our lives.
Well, let me say this, and I'm somebody who's a grassroots person. So, we've said our climate policy is going to start by going to the grassroots and asking people what they want. I'm not a top-down person. I'm fighting the top-down because I think the top-down's elitist. So let me say, I think you start with a conscious awareness of diversity. I was just saying to you the point about how Raider Stadium got built. That just can't happen. You don't get diversity unless you seek diversity and are aware of it. And so if you look at our bank staff, there's a conscious awareness that every single job has to be considered from the standpoint of who it is. And if you don't get diversity, then you're failing. So you're asking me how we do it. That's one point. I believe unless you're seeking diversity, and I gave you our staff of our campaign, the banks more so. And I believe that it's not just justice-based, although it is justice-based, it's also how you make the best decisions. You know, when I think about criminal justice, policing is the first place where you see real racial bias. And I'm a huge believer in community-based policing because I think people understand each other better when they live there and when they're part of a community and they understand the people. You know, having people come in from outside Oakland to police Oakland makes no sense. And that's what we've seen all over the country. Secondly, so first of all, I believe in diversity in terms of if you're not at the table, you're on the menu, the old political saying. But I also believe in grassroots, that you start in making decisions not by imposing them, but by having the conversation with the people who are on the ground, who have the most information about their own lives. And so when I talked about, people have said to me repeatedly about reparations, well, okay, what's the answer? What's the answer? And I said, look, here's an answer, which is HBCUs. I can show you 5 other maybe answers, but I'm not the person who's going to answer this question. We have to have the conversation. Like, I can't go to Kiana and Alicia and Nifi and say, here's what we're doing. That's not going to happen. We're going to sit down and maybe we're going to go around the country and talk to people. And in fact, I ran something in California called the Fair Shake Commission about inequality in California, studying it, what the causes were. And there are a couple big conclusions, one of which is you can't talk about inequality in California without talking about race and ethnicity. Can't do it. It's ridiculous. But we went to every single community. We brought people in. We had the people from the commission who are mostly, some academics, some activists, but we asked people in every community for the information, because the idea of people in DC thinking they know more about Oakland, California than the people of Oakland is ridiculous. Mm-hmm. So in every instance, and it's a perfect example in terms of climate, we go and ask, in terms of housing, we've gone to ask, in every case, the point is to sit down with people in the community and ask them what's important to them, so that you understand while you're making decisions, you're actually doing it together, and that you're the people who know the most have real input, because otherwise you're going to be doing something that's kind of silly. People who know the least are going to be making the decisions and then trying to impose them. And that's been true. Did we just lose these guys? Can you hear me, Alicia?
I can hear you. We lost
you. I can hear you.
They're coming. I think they got kicked backstage on this platform. So I heard everything that you said. And I think they probably did too. You just can't see them. And I know you've got 10 minutes left.
The other thing that I want to make sure that I say in this is, we know that there is a specific racial fight that is part of this campaign. Mm-hmm. I have said repeatedly that this president is a racist, and that I would treat white nationalism as domestic terrorism, which is not really treated as now. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And we would use the Justice Department to go after it. If you look at how we've done our bank, for instance, we have done that from the bottom up, with people from the community, hired from the community, and addressing the needs that people tell us they have, as opposed to coming in and trying to figure out what it is that will make the most money for us. We're really 100% mission driven. We'll never get the money back. It's back. It's over $1.1 billion at this point. No. And the money can never come back to us. We can use it to make more loans, or we can give it away, but we can never get it back. And we think that this is the format that best serves the community, that has the most impact. You get to leverage the money and reuse the money, and we measure every single loan in terms of its impact on the community, in terms of jobs, businesses supported, housing units supported, all the different measures we can have.
Cool. Thank you. I think Nife's up with the next question, and they're on. You're just the focus of the screen.
Yeah, can everybody hear me?
Yes. I'm so excited to see you guys again.
Yeah, Tom, thank you for sharing your political philosophy and some specifics around policy. that you want to make waves on. Could you also share your top political and policy priorities for your first 100 days in office and describe in detail how it will impact the Black community and how you will involve them in that process?
So first of all, I will appoint a formal commission on race on the first day. And that will be designed to retell the 400 plus years with an eye to solutions. And it's specifically designed to figure out the best way to come up with reparations. And I really do believe, Nife, that policy comes out of narrative. So we have to tell the story. I mean, I don't believe most people in California really know what Jim Crow was. And they also don't know who Barbara Lee was, or necessarily what she did, or a lot of the leadership that's gone on. So the idea would be, I have my own ideas about what the right thing to do is, but I want to do this to come out of the story of what happened and to come out from the grassroots of people's reactions to, okay, since Black people got redlined for generations and haven't been able to build wealth the way other Americans have, what do we do about that? How do we change the education policy in the United States so that we ensure mobility and justice across? I'm talking about, tripling the Title I spending in the education policy to try and equalize between low income and middle income and high income communities in terms of spending per kid. So, to me, the first thing I would do is that I'm going to declare a state of emergency on the climate on day one, Nife. I'm going to do it. I'm going to insist that it be done from the standpoint of environmental justice. I am going to go to, that is who is going to be leading that effort, because I believe that's the only just way to do it, and that you need the moral high ground to do something that big. But I'm going to say we are going to do those things regardless of what Congress wants. Because when I listen to all the different proposals, we're going to undo a lot of stuff that Trump does on day one. We're going to spend months having a list of things. We're going to undo, the way ICE is run, we're going to undo that on day one. We're going to push for immigration reform on day one and treat people like human beings again. We are going to reestablish the United States of America as a just place that is value-driven and inclusive. And we are going to do that across the board aggressively on day one. A lot of the things that are going to have to happen from the standpoint of Congress, we're going to have to see what happens, because I'm a grassroots person. I'm going to be pushing really hard for huge turnout in 2020 and pushing hard to try and take back the Senate. I'm going to do that as a candidate. I'm going to do that as a non-candidate. That is absolutely critical. But determining where we are in the Senate is going to determine what we can actually accomplish in terms of legislation. So, but the things that I know we can do that we're going to start on from day one are the things that a president can do based on executive action, which are the kinds of actions that President Obama took. And I'm going to start those very aggressively on day one, including in those 3 areas that I just outlined to you, but also in a bunch of others, because basically Mr. Trump has, he has hollowed out the government. He has made it impossible for the, big swaths of the government to do its job, and rebuilding that is going to be important. And let me say, Nife, so is our reestablishing us as a moral leader in the world. And I'll say one other thing, which I have a different attitude about foreign policy than these people do. Mm-hmm. They spend hundreds of billions of dollars on military stuff. They spend 1/10 of that on education.
That's right.
It makes no sense to me. I don't know if you've ever had this conversation, but I wear this African belt. I wear this African belt because these friends of mine from California support schools across Africa for girls, because girls don't get educated as much as boys. And it turns out that when girls get educated, literally everything gets better. Literally, they save the world. That maybe the biggest thing we could do in the climate crisis is educate girls around the world. No one says that. Everyone thinks it's going to be like this technology, like we're going to come up with a new bug that's going to save us. No, it's actually might be just educate girls. So when I think about foreign policy on day one, what we get for educating girls around the world is gigantic. I wear the belt to remind myself it ain't about the next $12 billion destroyer that's never going into action. It's not about the next $700 billion that we're spending on macho militarism that matters. That maybe educating girls is the thing that changes the whole world. It doesn't cost $700 billion.
Oh, I heard that. Well, so on that note, we want you to have an opportunity to give us a closing statement. And this is an opportunity for you to tell the Action Fund why you are the best candidate for President of the United States.
Look, at this point, we need somebody who can beat Donald Trump. And I actually come from a family with a long history of social justice and racial justice. And I started by saying, I didn't do this to run for president. This is something that we've done for decades, and my mother did for decades, and my brother's done for decades, for those of you who know Jim. But at this point, we need somebody who can beat Donald Trump, and that means taking him on the economy and honestly kicking his ass because he's a liar. And in order to do that, I think you have to have the knowledge, experience, and expertise to do that on the stage, because he's going to lie a lot, and he's a talented liar. And I built a business. I know a lot more about economics than Donald Trump, and I can take him on, and I will do that. So the Democrat is going to have to win that argument, or Trump, as much as a loathsome a man as he is, can get reelected, because everybody knew he was a criminal before he got elected last time, and that he hated a lot of people based on race and ethnicity, and that he had, tons of women saying that he literally attacked them, and he still got elected. So the two things I think are important are, one, to beat him on the economy, because that's what he's running on, and we can't lose that argument. And I believe I can take every single statement he makes and show that he's lying. And secondly, I think we need somebody who is going to do exactly what we're talking about here, which is we have a diverse party, thank God. We have a diverse country, thank God. That diverse party and that diverse country have to show up. I'm a grassroots person. We win by turnout across the board on November 3rd, 2020. We don't win by convincing Republicans that we're just like them. We're not like them at all. I want to turn the page on everything they've done. I think everything they've done is wrong, and literally wrong, not a matter of a bad judgment. I think morally wrong. What they're doing in money to Americans in terms of healthcare and education and a living wage and poison is deeply wrong. And we are going to have to take back this country from them, not by convincing Republicans we're just like them, but by convincing people who've given up on the system, who are overwhelmingly Democrats, who are young, Black, and brown, that this system can work for them, and that we're going to make it work for them if it kills us. And that's what I've said to people, that I will do this unequivocally. I don't owe anyone anything. These corporations have an insatiable desire for money, and if for us to win, we are going to have to beat them. And it is not going to be meet in the middle, because there is no middle. And that's just where we are. So my statement to you is, we need a progressive. We need somebody with deep roots in terms of social and racial justice. We need someone who can beat Trump on the economy. I can do that. I mean, that's what look, I'm going to support whoever it is, but I'm telling you, I will kill myself to do those things, literally.
I really appreciate your time today, Tom. Thank you for having such a robust conversation with us about your vision for not just how to improve America, but really how to transform the lives of people in it. Yes. Thank you for your time today, and good luck with Nevada.
Thank you very much.
Have a good day.
Just so you guys know, we are in second or third place in Nevada and South Carolina. And we think we can win these two states.
Well, let's go. Let's do it. Have a great rest of your day. Good luck. And we'll talk very soon.
Thank you very much.
All right, have a good one.